Picture this. You're driving down Sunset Boulevard on a smoggy afternoon, palm trees swaying against a backdrop of gleaming skyscrapers and distant mountains. The traffic crawls past billboards advertising the latest blockbuster, while street performers chase their dreams on every corner. This is Los Angeles today, a sprawling metropolis of nearly 4 million people, the entertainment capital of the world. But strip away the Hollywood glamour, the endless freeways and the celebrity culture, and you'll discover something remarkable. Beneath this city of dreams lies a story so extraordinary, so filled with ambition and contradiction, that it reads like the screenplay of the greatest film never made. Tonight, we're going to uncover how a small Spanish mission grew into the second largest city in America. We'll explore how Los Angeles survived earthquakes, riots, droughts, and even its own mythology to become one of the most influential cities on Earth. From forgotten Native American villages to the glittering studios of Hollywood, from orange groves to oil derricks, this is the complete story of a city built on illusions that somehow became reality. We'll start with a discovery that changed everything, buried deep beneath the urban sprawl. And from there, we'll follow the relentless march of progress, ambition, and reinvention that transformed a dusty frontier town into the global powerhouse we know today. So just relax and let your imagination drift as we explore the fascinating history of Los Angeles, the city where dreams are manufactured and sold to the world. When you think of Los Angeles, perhaps you picture the Hollywood sign gleaming white against the Hollywood hills, or maybe the endless stretch of Venice Beach with its street artists and bodybuilders. You might envision Rodeo Drive with its luxury boutiques, or the towering glass towers of downtown reaching toward the sky. This city feels like the very essence of modern America, a place where anything is possible if you're willing to chase it. And indeed, Los Angeles has become the symbol of American ambition, the place where millions have come to reinvent themselves. From the movie studios of Hollywood to the tech companies of Silicon Beach, there's a sense that this city has always been about creating something from nothing, turning dreams into reality. But the gleaming facades and palm-lined boulevards tell only part of the story. Most of the architecture that defines modern Los Angeles isn't actually that old. The iconic Hollywood sign was erected in the 1920s. Downtown skyscrapers mostly date from the mid-20th century, and even many of the Spanish-style buildings that seem so authentically Californian were built well after the gold rush. However, the area now known as Los Angeles has been significant to human civilization for thousands of years. And it's also the site of discoveries that remind us just how ancient this land really is. In the early 20th century, during excavations for the Los Angeles County Museum, paleontologists made some remarkable finds. Saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, giant ground sloths, and mastodons. These creatures roamed the area during the last ice age, approximately 50,000 years ago. It's almost surreal to imagine that here, where convertibles cruise down Wilshire Boulevard, a massive ground sloth once foraged for food. The famous La Brea tar pits, right in the heart of the city, have yielded more than 3 million specimens over the past century. These natural asphalt seeps trapped countless animals over tens of thousands of years, creating one of the richest fossil sites in the world. Today, you can visit the tar pits and see scientists still carefully extracting bones from the sticky black deposits. A reminder that Los Angeles sits on layers of history far deeper than most realize. But the true human story of Los Angeles begins with its first inhabitants, and their legacy is woven into the very fabric of the city, even if it's not always visible to the casual observer. Humans first arrived in the Los Angeles basin thousands of years ago, likely following the coastline south from what is now Alaska. Archaeological evidence suggests that people were living in the area at least 8,000 years ago, and possibly much earlier. These were the ancestors of the people who would come to be known as the Tongva, though they called themselves the Kij. The Tongva were not a single tribe, but rather a collection of villages and family groups spread throughout the region. They lived in an area that stretched from what is now Malibu in the west to the San Bernardino Mountains in the east, and from the mountains down to the Pacific Ocean. Their territory included the islands of San Clemente, San Nicolas, and Santa Catalina. This was a rich and varied landscape. The coastal areas provided abundant seafood, including abalone, mussels, and various fish. The inland valleys offered acorns from vast oak forests, seeds from countless plants, and game animals like deer and rabbits. The Tongva developed sophisticated techniques for processing acorns, which became a staple food. They would grind the nuts into flour, then leach out the bitter tannins with water, creating a nutritious meal that could be stored for months. The Tongva were also skilled traders. They created beautiful shell beads that served as a form of currency throughout Southern California and beyond. These beads have been found in archaeological sites as far away as the Grand Canyon, evidence of extensive trade networks that connected the Los Angeles basin to much of the American Southwest. Their villages were located near reliable water sources, often along the Los Angeles River and its tributaries. The largest village, called Yangna, was located near what is now downtown Los Angeles, close to the river that would later give the city its name. Other significant settlements included Cahuenga, near the present-day Hollywood Bowl, and Topanga, in the canyon that still bears a version of its original name. The Tongva lived in dome-shaped houses made from willow poles covered with tula mats or brush. These structures were practical for the mild Mediterranean climate, easy to build and repair, and could be quickly assembled when groups moved seasonally to take advantage of different food sources. By the time European explorers first encountered them, the Tongva population in the Los Angeles area may have numbered in the thousands. They had developed a complex society with chiefs, shamans, and specialized craftspeople. They held elaborate ceremonies, created intricate basketry, and maintained detailed knowledge of the natural world that sustained them. But this ancient way of life was about to encounter forces that would transform it beyond recognition. In 1542, a Spanish expedition, led by Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo, sailed along the California coast, becoming the first Europeans to see what would become Los Angeles County. However, it would be more than 2 centuries before the Spanish would establish a permanent presence in the area. The Spanish colonial system was built on 3 pillars: missions to convert the Native Americans to Christianity, presidios, or military posts to defend the territory, and pueblos, or civilian towns, to establish a permanent population. Los Angeles would owe its existence to this 3rd pillar, but the process was neither simple nor straightforward. In 1769, the Spanish began their systematic colonization of California with the establishment of missions along the coast. The closest mission to the Los Angeles area was San Gabriel Arcangel, founded in 1771, about 9 miles east of the present-day city center. The mission system had a profound and often devastating impact on the Tongva people. Spanish missionaries, with the backing of soldiers, forced many Tongva to abandon their traditional way of life and live at the mission. There they were required to adopt Christianity, learn European farming techniques, and provide labor for the mission's operations. Traditional Tongva religious practices were banned, children were separated from their families, and the social structure that had sustained the people for centuries was systematically dismantled. The impact was catastrophic. European diseases, to which the Tongva had no immunity, swept through the population. Smallpox, measles, and other illnesses killed thousands. The mission records tell a grim story of population decline as entire communities were decimated by disease and cultural disruption. Yet even as their world was being transformed, the Tongva adapted and survived. Some learned to work within the Spanish system, becoming skilled craftspeople, translators, and even leaders within the mission community. Others fled to the mountains or desert areas beyond Spanish control, maintaining aspects of their traditional culture. The Spanish recognized that California needed more than just missions and military posts to secure their claim to the territory. They needed civilian settlements, pueblos that could grow food, raise livestock, and establish a permanent Spanish presence. The location they chose for their second pueblo in California was a spot along the river that the Tongva called Yangna. On September 4th, 1781, a group of 44 settlers established el pueblo de Nuestra Señora, la Reina de los Ángeles, del Río Porciúncula. The name, which translates roughly to the town of Our Lady, the Queen of the Angels of the River Porciúncula, honoured both the Virgin Mary and St. Francis of Assisi, after whom the nearby river had been named. These founding families were a diverse group, even by today's standards. They included people of Spanish, African, Native American, and mixed ancestry. Some were from Mexico, others from as far away as Spain itself. What they had in common was a willingness to travel hundreds of miles into largely unknown territory to start a new life. The original pueblo was tiny, covering just a few square blocks near the present-day Los Angeles Plaza. Each family received a house lot in the town and a larger plot of farmland outside the settlement. The pueblo was laid out according to Spanish colonial law, with a central plaza surrounded by important buildings like the church and government offices, and residential areas spreading outward in a grid pattern. Life in early Los Angeles was challenging. The settlers had to clear land, build irrigation channels, and establish farms in an area that received little rainfall during much of the year. They planted corn, wheat, beans, and other crops, and raised cattle, sheep, and horses. The Los Angeles River provided water for irrigation, but managing that water required constant work and cooperation among the settlers. The pueblo grew slowly in its early years. By 1800, the population was still under 300 people. But Los Angeles was beginning to establish its character as a place where people from different backgrounds could come together and create something new. The mixing of Spanish, Mexican, Native American, and African influences created a unique culture that would influence the city for centuries to come. The economy of early Los Angeles was largely agricultural, but it was also connected to broader networks of trade and commerce. Cattle hides and tallow became valuable exports, traded to American and British ships that called at California ports. This trade brought new goods and ideas to Los Angeles and began to connect the remote pueblo to the wider world. As we'll see in the next part of our journey, this small settlement along the Los Angeles River was about to undergo transformations that would be even more dramatic than its founding. Political upheavals, economic booms, and waves of new settlers would reshape Los Angeles again and again, each time adding new layers to the city's complex identity. The Spanish colonial period in Los Angeles lasted only about 40 years, but its influence would echo through the city's development for generations. However, by the early 19th century, winds of change were sweeping across the Americas, and even this remote pueblo on the edge of the Pacific would not escape the revolutionary fervour transforming the continent. In 1821, Mexico won its independence from Spain after a brutal 11-year war. This distant political upheaval had immediate consequences for Los Angeles. Overnight, the residents went from being Spanish subjects to Mexican citizens. The rigid colonial system that had governed their lives for decades was suddenly swept away, replaced by new laws, new opportunities, and new uncertainties. Mexican independence brought about the secularization of the California missions, a process that began in the 1830s. The vast mission lands were supposed to be distributed to the Native Americans who had worked them, but in practice, most of the property ended up in the hands of Mexican settlers and government officials. This created a new class of wealthy landowners, the Californios, who would dominate Los Angeles society for the next several decades. These Californio families received enormous land grants from the Mexican government, some covering tens of thousands of acres. Names like Pico, Sepulveda, Verdugo, and Dominguez became synonymous with vast cattle ranches that stretched from the mountains to the sea. The Rancho San Pedro grant alone covered nearly 44,000 acres, including much of what is now the South Bay area of Los Angeles. Life on these ranchos was almost feudal in character. The wealthy Californio families lived in sprawling adobe houses surrounded by vast herds of cattle and horses. They employed Native American laborers, many of whom had been displaced from the missions, to work their lands. The economy was based almost entirely on cattle, with hides and tallow serving as the primary exports. This was the era of the legendary California vaqueros, skilled horsemen who developed many of the techniques and traditions that would later influence the American cowboy. These riders could rope a steer from horseback, brand hundreds of cattle in a day, and navigate the difficult terrain of the Los Angeles basin with remarkable skill. The Californio lifestyle was marked by hospitality, elaborate celebrations, and a relaxed approach to time that seemed to match the Mediterranean climate. Visitors to Los Angeles during this period often remarked on the warmth of their reception and the seemingly endless fiestas that marked religious holidays, weddings, and other special occasions. But beneath this romantic facade, tensions were building. The Mexican government was weak and unstable, changing hands repeatedly through coups and revolutions. California was so far from the center of power in Mexico City that it often felt more like an independent territory than a province. This sense of isolation would prove crucial when new players entered the scene. American traders and settlers had been trickling into California since the early 1800s, drawn by stories of fertile land and economic opportunity. Some married into California families and became Mexican citizens, while others maintained their American identity and allegiance. These early American residents of Los Angeles included merchants like Abel Stearns, who became one of the wealthiest men in California, and adventurers like Jedediah Smith, who opened some of the first overland routes to the Pacific coast. The arrival of American settlers accelerated in the 1840s, driven by the concept of manifest destiny and encouraged by stories of California's mild climate and abundant land. The Mexican government viewed this immigration with growing alarm, but lacked the military power to effectively control it. Tensions between Mexico and the United States had been building for years over territorial disputes, particularly regarding Texas. When war finally broke out in 1846, California became one of the key battlegrounds, even though most of the fighting took place hundreds of miles to the east. The Mexican-American War in Los Angeles was more of a series of skirmishes than major battles, but it had profound consequences for the city's future. American forces led by Commodore Robert Stockton and General Stephen Kearny occupied Los Angeles in August 1846. However, the Californios, led by Jose Antonio Carrillo and Andres Pico, managed to retake the city in a surprise attack that September. For several months, Los Angeles was the capital of Mexican resistance in California. The Californios, despite being vastly outnumbered, used their superior knowledge of the local terrain and their skills as horsemen to harass American forces. The most significant engagement was the Battle of San Pascual, where Andres Pico's lancers inflicted heavy casualties on American dragoons. But the outcome was never really in doubt. American reinforcements continued to arrive, while the Californios were cut off from supplies and support from Mexico. In January 1847, the Treaty of Cahuenga was signed at Campo de Cahuenga, near present-day Hollywood. This agreement effectively ended Mexican rule in California, though the formal treaty ending the war would not be signed until 1848. The gold rush, which began in 1849, transformed California almost overnight, but its effects on Los Angeles were more gradual and complex than in Northern California. While thousands of fortune seekers rushed to the Sierra Nevada foothills, Los Angeles remained primarily agricultural. However, the city did benefit from providing supplies and services to miners, and some residents made fortunes not from gold, but from feeding and outfitting those who sought it. More importantly, the gold rush brought California into the Union as a state in 1850, cementing American control over the region. Los Angeles was incorporated as an American city that same year, with a population of just over 1,600 residents. The transition from Mexican to American rule was not always smooth, as different legal systems, languages, and cultural expectations clashed. Many California families found their land titles challenged in American courts, often losing property they had held for generations. The legal process was expensive and conducted entirely in English, creating barriers for Spanish-speaking landowners. Some families, like the Picos and Sepulvedas, managed to adapt and maintain their wealth, while others were gradually dispossessed. The 1850s and 1860s were a period of dramatic change and growth for Los Angeles. The city's population began to diversify as American settlers arrived from across the country. Some came seeking farmland, others hoped to establish businesses serving the growing population. The discovery of gold in the nearby San Gabriel Mountains brought a modest mining boom, though it never approached the scale of Northern California's gold fields. During this period, Los Angeles began to take on some of the characteristics of an American frontier town. Saloons and gambling halls opened along Main Street, while the city struggled with lawlessness and vigilante justice. The absence of effective law enforcement led to the formation of vigilance committees, groups of citizens who took justice into their own hands. One of the darkest chapters in Los Angeles history occurred in 1871 with the Chinese Massacre, when a mob of several hundred people attacked the city's small Chinatown, killing 19 Chinese residents. This tragic event reflected the racial tensions and economic anxieties that plagued the growing city, as different ethnic groups competed for jobs and opportunities. Yet even as Los Angeles grappled with these challenges, the foundations for its future growth were being laid. The city's location, with access to both mountains and ocean, made it a natural hub for trade and transportation. The mild climate attracted settlers from colder regions, while the vast expanses of available land offered opportunities for agriculture and development that were increasingly scarce in more established parts of the country. The completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869 did not immediately transform Los Angeles, as the railroad terminated in Northern California. However, city leaders and boosters recognized that connecting Los Angeles to the national rail network would be crucial for the city's future growth. This understanding would drive much of the city's development strategy in the coming decades. By 1870, Los Angeles had grown to nearly 5,000 residents, but it was still a relatively small city, overshadowed by San Francisco in the north. Few could have predicted that this dusty pueblo would eventually become one of America's great metropolises. The transformation was about to begin, driven by railroads, real estate speculation, and the endless California sunshine that would soon attract millions of newcomers to the City of Angels. The arrival of the railroad would prove to be the catalyst that transformed Los Angeles from a sleepy frontier town into a major American city. But the path to that transformation was neither straight nor simple, involving fierce competition, political maneuvering, and the kind of ambitious dreaming that would become synonymous with Los Angeles itself. The Southern Pacific Railroad had been steadily building southward from San Francisco since the late 1860s, but the company showed little interest in extending service all the way to Los Angeles. The distance was considerable, the terrain challenging, and the potential profits uncertain. Los Angeles, after all, was still a relatively small city with limited industrial development. Local business leaders, however, understood that without rail connections, their city would remain forever isolated from the economic opportunities of the growing nation. Led by men like Phineas Banning, who had already established a shipping line connecting Los Angeles to San Francisco, they began lobbying intensively for railroad service. The breakthrough came in 1876 when the Southern Pacific finally completed its line to Los Angeles. The first train arrived on September 5th, carrying passengers who had traveled from San Francisco in just over 24 hours, a journey that previously required days by stagecoach or ship. The celebration was enormous, with virtually the entire population of the city turning out to welcome the iron horse that would change their lives forever. But one railroad was just the beginning. City boosters recognized that competition between rail lines would drive down prices and increase service, making Los Angeles more attractive to potential settlers and businesses. They began courting other railroad companies, offering subsidies, land grants, and other incentives to encourage additional lines. The most significant development came when the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway announced plans to build a line to Los Angeles, creating direct competition with the Southern Pacific. This sparked a rate war between the two companies that had extraordinary consequences for the city's growth. In 1886, the competition became so intense that railroad fares from the Midwest to Los Angeles dropped to absurdly low levels. At one point, a ticket from Kansas City to Los Angeles cost just $1, less than the price of a hotel room. Thousands of people, many of them farmers from the Midwest struggling with harsh winters and economic difficulties, seized this opportunity to relocate to sunny California. The result was the first great population boom in Los Angeles history. In 1880, the city had fewer than 12,000 residents. By 1890, that number had exploded to over 50,000. Entire neighborhoods sprang up seemingly overnight as developers subdivided orange groves and cattle ranches into residential lots. This was also the beginning of Los Angeles's reputation as a city built on real estate speculation and promotional hype. Developers organized elaborate excursions for potential buyers, complete with brass bands, free lunches, and carefully choreographed presentations highlighting the benefits of California living. They promised that orange trees would make every homeowner wealthy, that the climate would cure all ailments, and that property values would rise indefinitely. Some of these promises proved true, others were wildly exaggerated, but the promotional campaigns were undeniably effective, drawing thousands of new residents who might never have considered moving to California under other circumstances. The city's boosters became masters of what we might now call marketing, creating an image of Los Angeles as a paradise on earth where anyone could start fresh and prosper. The population boom of the 1880s established patterns that would characterize Los Angeles development for decades to come. Unlike older American cities that grew organically around ports or industrial centers, Los Angeles expanded through deliberate subdivision and promotion. Developers would purchase large tracts of land, divide them into lots, install basic infrastructure like roads and utilities, and then market the new communities to potential residents. This approach created a city that was spread out rather than concentrated, with numerous small commercial centers rather than a single dominant downtown. It also meant that Los Angeles grew primarily through the addition of single-family homes, rather than the apartment buildings and tenements that characterized eastern cities. The boom also attracted a new type of resident to Los Angeles. Many of the newcomers were middle-class families from the Midwest seeking a better climate and new opportunities. They brought with them Protestant religious values, Midwestern work ethics, and often considerable savings to invest in land and businesses. These new residents transformed the cultural character of Los Angeles. The relaxed, Hispanic-influenced lifestyle of the California period gave way to a more structured, business-oriented approach to daily life, Protestant churches were built throughout the city. Temperance societies campaigned against the saloons and gambling halls of the frontier era, and civic organizations worked to impose order on what had been a rather rough and tumble community. The agricultural potential of the Los Angeles basin also became apparent during this period. The combination of year-round sunshine, fertile soil, and reliable irrigation made possible crops that could not be grown elsewhere in the United States. Oranges became the most famous and profitable crop, with groves stretching from Pasadena to Riverside. The orange industry did more than just provide agricultural income. It became a powerful symbol of California's uniqueness and appeal. Orange crate labels, decorated with images of sunny groves and snow-capped mountains, were shipped across the country, serving as advertisements for the Southern California lifestyle. The phrase Orange County entered the American vocabulary as shorthand for prosperity, health, and the good life. Other crops thrived as well. The San Fernando Valley became a major producer of wheat and barley, while areas closer to the coast specialized in vegetables and flowers. The diversity of agricultural production helped stabilize the local economy and provided employment for thousands of workers. However, this agricultural expansion came at a cost to the environment and to the Native American communities that still lived in the area. The expansion of farming required extensive irrigation systems that diverted water from natural streams and rivers. The Los Angeles River, which had once flowed year-round and supported riparian forests, began to run dry during summer months as more and more water was diverted for agricultural and urban use. The surviving Tongva communities found themselves increasingly marginalized as their traditional gathering areas were converted to farms and residential developments. Many were forced to work as laborers on the very lands their ancestors had inhabited for centuries, while their cultural practices and languages faced continued suppression. The boom of the 1880s was followed by a severe economic bust in the early 1890s, as over-speculation and a national economic depression caused property values to plummet and development to stall. Many of the newcomers who had arrived during the boom years left for other opportunities, and some of the ambitious development projects of the previous decade were abandoned. But Los Angeles had been permanently changed by the experience. The city had proven its ability to attract large numbers of new residents, and the infrastructure built during the boom years provided a foundation for future growth. More importantly, the city had developed a reputation as a place where dreams could come true, where ordinary people could reinvent themselves and achieve prosperity. This reputation would prove crucial in the decades to come as Los Angeles prepared for even more dramatic transformations. The discovery of oil, the development of the motion picture industry, and the continued expansion of agriculture would soon make Los Angeles one of the fastest growing cities in America. The 1890s also saw the beginning of Los Angeles' expansion beyond its original boundaries through annexation. Small communities like Highland Park and Garvanza voted to join the city, attracted by the promise of better services and infrastructure. This pattern of growth through annexation would continue for decades, eventually creating the sprawling metropolis we know today. As the 19th century drew to a close, Los Angeles stood at a crossroads. It was no longer the small frontier town of the Mexican period, but neither was it yet the major metropolis it would become. The foundations had been laid, the patterns established, and the reputation built. What remained was for the right combination of opportunity, ambition, and promotional genius to unlock the city's full potential. That combination was about to arrive in the form of black gold bubbling up from beneath the city's streets, and silver screens that would project the California dream to audiences around the world. The greatest chapters in the Los Angeles story were still to come, and they would exceed even the wildest dreams of the city's most enthusiastic boosters. The the turn of the century brought with it a discovery that would fundamentally alter not just Los Angeles, but the entire trajectory of Southern California's development. In 1892, Edward Doheny was walking through a park near downtown Los Angeles when he noticed a man loading chunks of a black, tar-like substance into his wagon. When Doheny asked what he was doing, the man explained that he was collecting briar, a natural asphalt that seeped from the ground, which he sold for fuel and waterproofing. Intrigued by this encounter, Doheny began investigating these natural seeps more carefully. He had heard stories of similar deposits back east being developed into profitable oil wells, and he wondered if the same might be possible in Los Angeles. Along with his partner Charles Canfield, Doheny decided to try drilling near the La Brea tar pits. Their first attempt, using primitive equipment and techniques borrowed from water well drilling, struck oil at just 155 feet below the surface. The well produced only a few barrels per day, but it was enough to convince them that much larger deposits lay beneath the city. Word of their success spread quickly, and within months, a forest of wooden derricks sprouted across Los Angeles. The oil boom that followed dwarfed even the real estate speculation of the 1880s. Wells were drilled in backyards, vacant lots, and even in the middle of residential streets. The sound of drilling and pumping machinery became the constant soundtrack of daily life in many neighborhoods. Property owners who had been struggling to make ends meet suddenly found themselves wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. The Westlake district, now known as MacArthur Park, became particularly dense with oil derricks. From a distance, the area looked like a mechanical forest, with hundreds of wooden towers reaching toward the sky. The contrast between the oil infrastructure and the elegant Victorian homes that had been built during the previous decade created a surreal landscape that perfectly captured the contradictions of Los Angeles' rapid development. The oil industry attracted a new wave of immigrants to Los Angeles, including experienced drillers and refinery workers from Pennsylvania, Texas, and other established oil regions. These workers brought technical expertise that helped make Los Angeles production more efficient and profitable. They also brought different cultural traditions, adding another layer to the city's increasingly complex social fabric. Mexican workers, many of them descendants of the original California families, found new opportunities in the oil fields. Their knowledge of the local terrain and their willingness to work for lower wages than Anglo workers made them valuable employees for many oil companies. However, they also faced discrimination and were often relegated to the most dangerous and poorly paid positions. The oil boom coincided with another important development in Los Angeles: the growth of the citrus industry into a major economic force. The combination of ideal growing conditions, improved transportation, and aggressive marketing had made California oranges famous across the United States. The California Fruit Growers Exchange, later known as Sunkist, pioneered many of the advertising and branding techniques that would later be adopted by other industries. The success of the citrus industry reinforced Los Angeles' image as a place of abundance and opportunity. Magazine articles and promotional materials depicted endless groves of fruit trees set against a backdrop of snow-capped mountains, with comfortable homes nestled among the orange trees. This imagery became so strongly associated with Southern California that it's influenced everything from architecture to urban planning. The wealth generated by oil and citrus production funded a remarkable building boom in Los Angeles during the first decades of the 20th century. Grand hotels like the Alexandria and the Biltmore were constructed to accommodate the growing number of visitors and investors coming to the city. Elaborate theaters and department stores transformed downtown Los Angeles into a sophisticated urban center that could rival cities much older and larger. This period also saw the development of some of Los Angeles' most distinctive neighborhoods. Pasadena, originally developed as a winter resort for wealthy Easterners, became famous for its elegant homes and manicured gardens. Beverly Hills, initially a failed bean farm, was transformed into an exclusive residential community that would later attract the movie industry's elite. The expansion of Los Angeles during this period was not random, but followed deliberate patterns established by developers and city planners. The Pacific Electric Railway, an extensive network of electric streetcars, connected dozens of communities throughout the Los Angeles basin. This system, at its peak, was one of the largest urban rail networks in the world, stretching from the San Fernando Valley to Orange County and from the beaches to the mountains. The streetcar system enabled a unique form of urban development that became characteristic of Los Angeles. Rather than creating a single dense urban core, the region developed as a collection of semi-independent communities, each with its own commercial district and residential areas. This polycentric model of growth would later be reinforced by the automobile, but it was first established during the streetcar era. The success and growth of Los Angeles during this period was not without its problems and contradictions. The rapid industrial development created significant environmental challenges, including air and water pollution, that would plague the region for decades to come. The oil derricks that had initially seemed like symbols of progress and prosperity began to be seen as eyesores that detracted from the city's image as a paradise. Social tensions also increased as the city's population became more diverse and economically stratified. Labor disputes were common in both the oil fields and the citrus groves, often pitting recent immigrants against established residents. The city's business elite, many of whom had made fortunes in real estate, oil, or agriculture, wielded enormous political influence and often used it to suppress labor organizing and maintain low wages. Despite these challenges, Los Angeles continued to attract new residents at an unprecedented rate. By 1910, the city's population had grown to over 300,000, making it the 10th largest city in the United States. More importantly, the growth showed no signs of slowing down as new industries and opportunities continued to emerge. One of the most significant of these new industries was just beginning to take shape in the small community of Hollywood, where a handful of entrepreneurs were experimenting with a new form of entertainment that would soon transform not just Los Angeles, but the entire world's understanding of popular culture and storytelling. The motion picture industry arrived in Los Angeles almost by accident, yet its impact would be more profound and lasting than oil, oranges, or any other industry that had previously shaped the city. In the early 1900s, most American films were produced in New York and New Jersey, where the major studios controlled both production and distribution through the powerful Motion Picture Patents Company, often called the Trust. This monopoly created opportunities for independent filmmakers willing to operate outside the established system. Many of these entrepreneurs began looking westward, seeking locations where they could work without interference from trust enforcers and patent lawyers. Los Angeles offered several compelling advantages: year-round sunshine for outdoor filming, diverse landscapes within easy reach, cheap land, and perhaps most importantly, proximity to the Mexican border should a quick escape become necessary. The first permanent movie studio in Los Angeles was established in 1911 by the Nestor Company in the small community of Hollywood. The choice of location was practical rather than romantic. Hollywood offered affordable real estate, reliable electric power, and easy access to downtown Los Angeles, while remaining far enough away to avoid the noise and congestion of the city centre. Other filmmakers quickly followed, drawn by reports of ideal filming conditions and the success of the early pioneers. By 1915, dozens of small studios were operating throughout the Los Angeles area, from Hollywood and Culver City to Edendale and Fort Lee. The industry was still small and scrappy, with most productions operating on shoestring budgets and improvised equipment. The early movie industry attracted a unique mix of entrepreneurs, artists, and adventurers. Many were immigrants or first-generation Americans who had been excluded from more established industries. Jewish immigrants like Karl Lemmel, Adolf Zukor, and Louis B. Mayer found opportunities in the film business that had been denied to them in other fields. Their outsider status may have given them a different perspective on American culture, helping them create entertainment that appealed to the diverse, rapidly changing population of early 20th century America. The growth of the film industry coincided with significant changes in American society and culture. The country was becoming increasingly urbanized and industrialized, creating new forms of leisure and entertainment. Movie theaters, initially simple storefront operations called Nickelodeons, began appearing in cities and towns across the country. By 1920, an estimated 35 million Americans attended movies each week, making cinema the nation's most popular form of paid entertainment. This massive audience created unprecedented opportunities for the Los Angeles film industry. Studios that had begun as small family-run operations evolved into major corporations, employing thousands of people. The star system emerged as studios realized that audiences would pay to see specific actors, leading to the creation of the first movie celebrities whose faces and names became known worldwide. The transformation of Hollywood from a quiet agricultural community into the entertainment capital of the world happened with remarkable speed. Orange groves and bean fields were subdivided and developed into studio lots, office buildings, and residential neighborhoods for the growing army of actors, directors, writers, and technicians that the industry required. The wealth generated by the movie industry began to reshape Los Angeles society and culture. Studio executives built palatial homes in Beverly Hills and Bel Air, while successful actors and actresses became the new aristocracy of Southern California. Their lifestyles, documented in fan magazines and gossip columns, helped establish Los Angeles as a symbol of glamour, success, and the possibility of reinvention. The film industry also had a profound impact on Los Angeles' physical development. Studios required large, flat spaces for outdoor sets and backlots, encouraging the continued expansion of the metropolitan area. The need to transport equipment, sets, and personnel led to improvements in the region's transportation infrastructure, including better roads and expanded streetcar service. Perhaps most importantly, the movie industry made Los Angeles a global brand. Films produced in Hollywood were distributed worldwide, carrying images of Southern California's beaches, mountains, and Mediterranean architecture to audiences in every corner of the earth. The city became synonymous with dreams, ambition, and the possibility of achieving fame and fortune through talent and determination. This global visibility attracted new waves of immigrants and migrants to Los Angeles. Aspiring actors and actresses arrived daily, hoping to be discovered and transformed into stars. Writers, directors, and technical personnel came seeking opportunities in the rapidly expanding industry. Even people with no connection to entertainment were drawn by the city's growing reputation as a place where anything was possible. The 1920s marked the full flowering of both the film industry and Los Angeles as a major American metropolis. The city's population doubled during the decade, reaching over 1 million residents by 1930. New neighborhoods like the Miracle Mile and the Sunset Strip emerged to serve the growing population of entertainment industry professionals and the businesses that catered to them. This period also saw the development of Los Angeles' distinctive architectural character. Spanish colonial revival style, promoted by architects like George Washington Smith and Bertram Goodhue, became the dominant aesthetic for everything from movie theaters and hotels to private homes and apartment buildings. This architectural style reinforced the city's image as an exotic Mediterranean paradise, while providing a romantic backdrop for the films being produced there. The oil industry, meanwhile, continued to expand and evolve. New fields were discovered throughout the Los Angeles basin, from Signal Hill near Long Beach to the Santa Fe Springs area. The wealth generated by oil production funded much of the city's growth and development, providing capital for everything from new subdivisions to cultural institutions. However, the environmental costs of this rapid industrialization were becoming increasingly apparent. The combination of oil refining, automobile exhaust, and industrial emissions began creating the air quality problems that would plague Los Angeles for decades to come. The city's unique geography, with mountains trapping air masses over the basin, made these pollution problems particularly severe. Water resources also became a growing concern as the population exploded. The Los Angeles River and local groundwater supplies were no longer adequate to meet the city's needs. This crisis led to one of the most controversial and ambitious engineering projects in American history: the construction of an aqueduct to bring water from the Owens Valley, more than 200 miles away in the eastern Sierra Nevada. The Owens Valley Aqueduct project, completed in 1913 under the direction of Chief Engineer William Mulholland, demonstrated both the ambition and the ruthlessness that characterized Los Angeles' approach to growth and development. The project required the city to acquire water rights throughout the Owens Valley, often through deceptive practices that left local farmers and communities without adequate water for their own needs. The completion of the aqueduct ensured that Los Angeles would have sufficient water to support continued population growth, but it also established a pattern of resource exploitation that would characterize the city's relationship with the broader region. Los Angeles would repeatedly reach beyond its natural boundaries to secure the resources necessary for continued expansion, often at the expense of other communities and ecosystems. The success of the aqueduct project also contributed to the mythology surrounding Los Angeles as a city that could overcome any obstacle through human ingenuity and determination. The ability to transport water across hundreds of miles of desert and mountains seemed to prove that geography and natural limitations were merely problems to be solved, rather than permanent constraints on growth. By the mid-1920s, Los Angeles had established itself as one of America's major cities, with a diversified economy based on oil, agriculture, manufacturing, and entertainment. The city's boosters continued their promotional campaigns, but now they had genuine achievements to point to rather than mere promises. Los Angeles had become living proof that the American dream was still possible, that ordinary people could come to California and build extraordinary lives. The combination of economic opportunity, cultural dynamism, and promotional genius had created something unprecedented in American urban development. Los Angeles was not just growing, it was inventing new forms of city life that would influence urban development throughout the United States and around the world. The stage was set for even more dramatic growth and transformation. The automobile was beginning to reshape American society, and no city was better positioned to take advantage of this new technology than Los Angeles, with its sprawling layout and culture of mobility and reinvention. The greatest decades in the city's history were just beginning. As the 1920s roared on, Los Angeles stood on the brink of another transformation that would cement its position as America's most forward-looking city. The automobile, which had been a luxury item for the wealthy just a decade earlier, was rapidly becoming accessible to middle-class families across the country. Henry Ford's assembly line production methods had made cars affordable, and installment buying plans put them within reach of ordinary workers. Nowhere in America was this automotive revolution more enthusiastically embraced than in Los Angeles. The city's sprawling geography, which had been shaped by the Pacific Electric streetcar system, proved perfectly suited to automobile travel. Unlike older eastern cities with their narrow, congested streets, Los Angeles had been built with wide boulevards and generous spacing between buildings. The mild climate meant that driving was pleasant year-round, without the harsh winters that made automobile ownership less appealing in northern cities. By 1925, Los Angeles had more automobiles per capita than any other city in the world. The ratio was 1 car for every 3 residents, a statistic that amazed visitors from other parts of the country where car ownership remained relatively rare. This automotive embrace had profound consequences for the city's continued development and character. The automobile freed Los Angeles residents from the constraints of fixed rail routes, allowing them to live farther from their workplaces and to explore the full diversity of the metropolitan region. Suburban communities that had previously been isolated began to flourish as commuters could now drive to jobs in downtown Los Angeles or the growing industrial areas. This mobility also encouraged the development of new types of businesses designed specifically for automobile-oriented customers. Drive-in restaurants, gas stations with elaborate architectural designs, and shopping centres with large parking lots began appearing throughout the region. The Pig and Whistle on Hollywood Boulevard became famous not just for its food, but for its car hop service that allowed customers to eat without leaving their automobiles. These businesses represented a new form of commercial architecture that would eventually spread across America, but Los Angeles was where it all began. The automobile also transformed the entertainment industry in ways that went far beyond simple transportation. Movie studios could now scout locations throughout Southern California, leading to the use of desert landscapes, mountain forests, and coastal scenes in films that were seen by audiences worldwide. The mobility provided by automobiles allowed film crews to work more efficiently and creatively, contributing to the technical and artistic advancement of motion pictures. The star system that had emerged in Hollywood was perfectly suited to the automobile age. Movie stars needed to project an image of success and glamour, and expensive automobiles became essential accessories for maintaining their public personas. The sight of famous actors and actresses driving luxury cars through Beverly Hills became part of the mythology of Hollywood's success. Real estate developers quickly recognized the opportunities created by automobile ownership. Large tracts of land that had previously been considered too remote for development suddenly became attractive for residential subdivisions. The San Fernando Valley, which had been primarily agricultural since the Spanish colonial period, began its transformation into a vast suburban landscape of single-family homes. This suburban development followed patterns that would later be adopted throughout the United States. Developers would purchase large ranches or orange groves, subdivide them into residential lots, install basic infrastructure like roads and utilities, and then market the new communities to middle-class families seeking more space and privacy than was available in established neighborhoods. The architectural style of these new subdivisions was heavily influenced by the romantic imagery that the film industry had helped create around Los Angeles. Spanish colonial revival remained popular, but it was joined by other styles that evoked exotic or historical themes. Mediterranean villas, English Tudor cottages, and French Norman farmhouses appeared side by side, creating neighborhoods that looked like movie sets come to life. This eclectic architectural approach reflected the broader cultural character of Los Angeles during the 1920s. The city attracted people from all over the United States and many foreign countries, each group bringing its own traditions and preferences. Rather than creating a uniform urban culture, Los Angeles celebrated diversity and individuality in ways that seemed perfectly suited to the automobile age. The economic prosperity of the 1920s also funded the construction of some of Los Angeles' most iconic landmarks. The Los Angeles Central Library, designed by Bertram Goodhue in a distinctive Art Deco style, opened in 1926 and quickly became a symbol of the city's cultural aspirations. The Griffith Observatory, built with funds donated by mining magnate Griffith J. Griffith, provided residents with access to astronomical education and spectacular views of the growing metropolis. Downtown Los Angeles experienced its own building boom during this period, as the city's business elite constructed office towers and commercial buildings that rivaled those of much older cities. The Title Insurance Building, completed in 1928, was briefly the tallest building on the West Coast, a concrete symbol of Los Angeles' growing economic importance. The oil industry continued to play a crucial role in the city's economy, but it was becoming more sophisticated and technologically advanced. The Signal Hill field, discovered in 1921, proved to be one of the richest oil deposits ever found, generating enormous wealth for both the companies that developed it and the local communities that benefited from the tax revenue it produced. However, the environmental consequences of this rapid industrialization were becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The combination of oil refining, automobile exhaust, and other industrial emissions created air quality problems that were unlike anything experienced in other American cities. The unique meteorological conditions of the Los Angeles basin, with its surrounding mountains and frequent temperature inversions, trapped pollutants close to the ground and concentrated them over populated areas. The first recorded complaints about smog in Los Angeles date to the mid-1920s, when residents began noticing a brown haze that reduced visibility and caused eye irritation. Initially, most people assumed this was a temporary problem that would resolve itself as the city matured and industrial practices improved. Few could have predicted that air pollution would become one of Los Angeles' most persistent and challenging problems. The entertainment industry also faced new challenges and opportunities as the 1920s progressed. The introduction of synchronized sound in motion pictures, demonstrated most famously in The Jazz Singer in 1927, revolutionized filmmaking and required massive investments in new technology and facilities. Studios that had dominated the silent film era found themselves scrambling to adapt to the new medium, while others saw opportunities to establish themselves in the changing marketplace. The transition to sound films had profound implications for the types of stories that could be told and the actors who could succeed in the new medium. Many silent film stars found that their voices or accents were unsuitable for talking pictures, leading to dramatic changes in the Hollywood hierarchy. At the same time, the need for dialogue writers and sound technicians created new categories of employment within the industry. The late 1920s also saw the emergence of the major studio system that would dominate Hollywood for the next several decades. Companies like Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, Paramount, and Warner Brothers consolidated their control over production, distribution, and exhibition, creating vertically integrated entertainment empires that could control every aspect of the filmmaking process. These studios became some of the largest employers in Los Angeles, with elaborate facilities that functioned almost like small cities. The MGM lot in Culver City, for example, employed thousands of people in dozens of different occupations, from actors and directors to carpenters, electricians, and costume designers. The studios provided not just jobs, but a sense of community and identity for many Los Angeles residents. The cultural influence of Hollywood continued to expand throughout the decade, reaching far beyond the United States to audiences around the world. American films became one of the country's most important exports, spreading not just entertainment, but also images and ideas about American life and values. Los Angeles, as the source of these films, became a symbol of American modernity and success. This global influence attracted new waves of immigration to Los Angeles, including artists, writers, and intellectuals from Europe who saw opportunities in the growing entertainment industry. The city's cultural life became increasingly sophisticated and cosmopolitan, with art galleries, concert halls, and literary societies that rivaled those of much older cities. The prosperity and optimism of the 1920s seemed to validate all the promotional claims that had been made about Los Angeles over the previous decades. The city had indeed become a place where dreams could come true, where ordinary people could achieve extraordinary success, and where the future seemed limitless. The population continued to grow at an unprecedented rate, reaching 1.2 million by 1929. But even as Los Angeles celebrated its achievements and continued expansion, warning signs were beginning to appear. The real estate speculation that had driven much of the city's growth was reaching unsustainable levels, with property values rising far faster than the underlying economic fundamentals could support. The stock market, which had funded much of the decade's prosperity, was showing signs of instability that worried more cautious observers. The entertainment industry, despite its apparent success, was also facing challenges. The enormous investments required for sound technology had strained the finances of many studios, while the increasing consolidation of the industry was reducing opportunities for independent producers and smaller companies. The creative community that had flourished in the freewheeling atmosphere of the early film industry was beginning to chafe under the more restrictive corporate structures of the major studios. Labor tensions were also increasing throughout Los Angeles as workers in various industries began organizing to demand better wages and working conditions. The city's business elite, who had grown accustomed to controlling local politics and maintaining low labor costs, found themselves facing more organized and determined opposition than they had encountered in previous decades. Water resources remained a constant concern, despite the success of the Owens Valley Aqueduct project. The city's continued growth was straining the capacity of existing water supplies, and city officials were already looking toward additional sources in Northern California and the Colorado River. These projects would require massive investments and complex negotiations with other states and regions, adding another layer of challenge to the city's continued expansion. The environmental costs of rapid growth were also becoming more apparent to residents and visitors alike. The oil derricks that had once symbolized prosperity were increasingly seen as eyesores that detracted from the city's image as a paradise. The air quality problems that had emerged during the decade were getting worse rather than better, despite various attempts at regulation and control. Yet for most residents and observers, these problems seemed manageable compared to the remarkable achievements of the previous decade. Los Angeles had established itself as one of America's great cities, with a diversified economy, a global cultural influence, and a quality of life that was the envy of much of the nation. The city's boosters continued to promote Los Angeles as the ideal American metropolis, where technology, culture, and natural beauty combined to create an unparalleled urban experience. The stage was set for the next chapter in the Los Angeles story, one that would test the city's resilience and adaptability in ways that few could have imagined. The stock market crash of 1929 would bring an end to the prosperity of the 1920s and force Los Angeles to confront the contradictions and vulnerabilities that lay beneath its glamorous surface. But the foundation had been laid for something truly extraordinary. Los Angeles had become more than just another American city. It had become a symbol of possibility, a place where the future was being invented daily. The challenges ahead would be severe, but the city that had already overcome so many obstacles and transformed itself so many times was prepared to do so again. The greatest tests and triumphs in the Los Angeles story were still to come, as the city prepared to face economic depression, world war, and social upheaval, while continuing to grow and evolve in ways that would influence urban development around the globe. The crash of October 1929 sent shockwaves through the American economy, but nowhere were the reverberations felt more dramatically than in Los Angeles. The city that had been built on optimism speculation, and the promise of endless growth suddenly found itself confronting harsh economic realities that seemed to contradict everything it had come to represent. The collapse of the stock market wiped out millions of dollars in paper wealth that had funded much of the city's expansion during the previous decade. Real estate values, which had seemed to rise inexorably throughout the 1920s, plummeted as buyers disappeared and credit became scarce. Construction projects that had been planned or started were abandoned, leaving empty lots and half-finished buildings scattered throughout the metropolitan area. The entertainment industry, despite its global reach and apparent stability, proved surprisingly vulnerable to the economic downturn. Movie attendance dropped sharply as families struggled to afford even the modest price of admission to neighborhood theaters. Studios that had expanded rapidly during the prosperous 1920s found themselves overextended and facing massive debts from their investments in sound technology and elaborate facilities. Many of the smaller, independent production companies that had given Hollywood much of its creative energy simply disappeared, unable to survive the sudden contraction in available financing. Even the major studios were forced to cut salaries, reduce production schedules, and lay off thousands of employees who had seemed secure in their jobs just months before. The oil industry, which had provided much of the capital for Los Angeles growth, also faced severe challenges as demand for petroleum products declined and prices fell to levels that made many wells unprofitable to operate. The forest of derricks that had once symbolized the city's prosperity began to look more like monuments to a vanished era of easy wealth and unlimited opportunity. Yet even as Los Angeles struggled with the immediate impact of the economic collapse, the city began to demonstrate the resilience and adaptability that would become hallmarks of its character. Rather than simply waiting for conditions to improve, residents and civic leaders began developing new strategies for survival and growth that would ultimately make the city stronger and more diversified than it had been before the crash. The federal government's response to the Depression included massive public works projects designed to provide employment and stimulate economic activity. Los Angeles proved remarkably successful at attracting these federal investments, using its political connections and promotional skills to secure funding for infrastructure projects that had been needed for years but had been delayed due to local budget constraints. The construction of the Los Angeles Civic Center, a complex of government buildings in a distinctive Art Deco style, provided jobs for thousands of construction workers, while creating a physical symbol of the city's governmental authority and permanence. The project also demonstrated Los Angeles' ability to think on a grand scale even during difficult economic times, with buildings designed to serve a population much larger than the city's current size. Similarly, the expansion of Los Angeles International Airport, which had begun as a small municipal airfield, received significant federal funding during the 1930s. City officials recognized that aviation represented the future of transportation and communication, and they were determined to position Los Angeles as a major hub in the emerging air travel network. This investment would prove prescient as commercial aviation expanded rapidly in the following decades. The entertainment industry also adapted to the new economic realities in ways that ultimately strengthened its position. The financial pressures of the Depression forced studios to become more efficient and innovative in their production methods. The need to attract audiences with limited spending money led to the development of new genres and storytelling techniques that would define Hollywood's golden age. Double features, which allowed moviegoers to see two films for the price of one, became standard practice in most theaters. Studios began producing lower-budget films that could be made quickly and cheaply, while still providing the entertainment value that audiences expected. These B-movies created opportunities for new actors, directors, and writers who might not have found work in the more expensive productions of the previous decade. the economic pressures also encouraged greater cooperation between studios, leading to the development of industry-wide standards and practices that made film production more efficient and predictable. The Motion Picture Production Code, implemented in the early 1930s, created content guidelines that, while restrictive in some ways, also provided a framework that allowed studios to produce films they knew would be acceptable to audiences and censors nationwide. The agricultural sector of the Los Angeles economy faced particularly severe challenges during the Depression, as crop prices fell and many farmers found themselves unable to cover their production costs. The citrus industry, which had been one of the region's most profitable agricultural enterprises, saw orange prices drop to levels that barely covered the cost of picking and shipping the fruit. However, these difficulties also spurred innovation and consolidation that ultimately made California agriculture more competitive and efficient. Cooperative marketing organizations became more sophisticated, developing new techniques for processing, packaging, and promoting their products. The Sunkist brand, which had been established in the 1890s, became even more important as a way to differentiate California citrus from competing products and justify premium prices. The challenges of the 1930s also accelerated the mechanization of agriculture in the Los Angeles region. Farmers who could no longer afford to hire large numbers of workers began investing in machinery that could reduce labor costs while maintaining or increasing production. This technological transformation would continue for decades, fundamentally changing the character of California agriculture. The demographic changes brought about by the Depression were as significant as the economic ones. The Great Migration of the 1920s slowed dramatically as fewer people could afford to relocate to California, and some recent arrivals actually left the state in search of opportunities elsewhere. However, Los Angeles continued to attract certain types of migrants, particularly those fleeing the Dust Bowl conditions that devastated agricultural areas in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and other parts of the rural South and Southwest. These Dust Bowl migrants, often derisively called Okies regardless of their actual state of origin, brought with them cultural traditions and work ethics that would have a lasting impact on Los Angeles. Many settled in the San Fernando Valley and other agricultural areas where they could find work in the citrus groves and vegetable farms. Others found employment in the oil fields or in the various industries that continued to operate despite the economic difficulties. The arrival of these migrants created social tensions that reflected broader anxieties about economic competition and cultural change. Established residents worried that the newcomers would depress wages and strain public services, while the migrants themselves often faced discrimination and hostility from communities that had previously welcomed newcomers with enthusiasm. These tensions were particularly acute in the entertainment industry, where the arrival of talented but desperate performers created intense competition for the limited number of available jobs. The romantic image of Hollywood as a place where anyone could become a star began to give way to a more realistic understanding of the industry as a highly competitive business where success required not just talent but also luck, connections, and the ability to survive long periods of unemployment. Despite these challenges, the 1930s also saw remarkable creativity and innovation in Los Angeles that would have lasting cultural impact. The combination of economic pressure and concentrated talent produced some of the most memorable films, music, and literature in American history. Writers like John Steinbeck and Nathaniel West drew inspiration from the struggles and contradictions of Depression-era California, creating works that captured both the promise and the disillusionment of the American dream. The music industry, centered in Hollywood, but drawing talent from across the country, developed new forms of popular music that reflected the experiences and aspirations of ordinary Americans during difficult times. The rise of radio as a mass medium created new opportunities for musicians and entertainers, while also providing a way for Los Angeles-based performers to reach national audiences without the expense of touring. Architecture and urban planning also evolved during this period in response to changing economic and social conditions. The elaborate, expensive building styles of the 1920s gave way to more practical approaches that emphasized efficiency and functionality. The streamlined modern style, with its emphasis on horizontal lines and modern materials, became popular for everything from gas stations to apartment buildings. The federal government's involvement in housing policy during the 1930s also influenced Los Angeles development patterns. New Deal programs that provided financing for home purchases made suburban development more accessible to middle-class families, while public housing projects addressed the needs of lower-income residents. These interventions established precedents for government involvement in urban planning that would continue to shape the city's growth for decades. The completion of the Colorado River Aqueduct in 1941, after more than a decade of planning and construction, provided Los Angeles with the additional water resources necessary to support continued population growth. This massive engineering project, which required the construction of tunnels, pumping stations, and reservoirs across hundreds of miles of desert, demonstrated the city's continued ability to overcome geographical limitations through human ingenuity and determination. The aqueduct project also illustrated the complex political and economic relationships that had developed between Los Angeles and the broader region. The city's ability to secure water rights and federal funding for the project reflected its growing political influence at both state and national levels, while also creating obligations and dependencies that would influence future development decisions. By the end of the 1930s, Los Angeles had not only survived the Great Depression, but had emerged stronger and more diversified than before the economic collapse. The city's population had continued to grow, though more slowly than in the previous decade, reaching nearly 1.5 million by 1940. More importantly, the economic base had become more balanced, with manufacturing, aerospace, and other industries complementing the traditional pillars of oil, agriculture, and entertainment. The entertainment industry had consolidated and matured during the decade, developing the studio system and star system that would define Hollywood's golden age. The major studios had weathered the economic storm and emerged with greater control over production, distribution, and exhibition than ever before. Los Angeles had become not just the center of American film production, but the global capital of popular entertainment. The city's infrastructure had also been significantly improved during the 1930s, thanks in large part to federal investment and New Deal programs. New highways, bridges, and public buildings provided the foundation for future growth, while also creating a more efficient and attractive urban environment. The expansion of Los Angeles International Airport positioned the city to take advantage of the coming revolution in air transportation. Perhaps most importantly, Los Angeles had developed a more realistic understanding of its strengths and limitations. The unbridled optimism of the 1920s had given way to a more mature appreciation of the challenges involved in building and sustaining a major metropolitan area. The city's leaders and residents had learned valuable lessons about the importance of economic diversification, environmental stewardship, and social cohesion. The stage was now set for the next great transformation in Los Angeles history. World War II would bring unprecedented challenges and opportunities, requiring the city to mobilize its resources and talents on a scale that would have been unimaginable just a few years earlier. The war would accelerate trends that had begun during the Depression, while also creating entirely new industries and communities that would reshape the metropolitan landscape. The aircraft manufacturing facilities that had been established during the 1930s would become the foundation for a massive defence industry that would employ hundreds of thousands of workers and attract new waves of migrants from across the country. The entertainment industry would play a crucial role in maintaining civilian morale and supporting the war effort, while also undergoing its own transformation as many of its key personnel served in the military or worked on propaganda films. The demographic changes brought about by the war would be even more dramatic than those of the previous decades, as African Americans from the South, women entering the workforce in unprecedented numbers, and immigrants from Mexico and other countries all contributed to a rapidly changing social landscape. These changes would create new opportunities and challenges that would influence Los Angeles development for generations to come. But all of this lay in the future. As the 1930s drew to a close, Los Angeles had proven its resilience and adaptability during one of the most difficult decades in American history. The city that had been built on dreams and speculation had learned to survive on hard work and innovation. The foundation had been laid for even greater achievements and transformations in the decades ahead. The transformation that World War II brought to Los Angeles was nothing short of extraordinary. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, the city found itself thrust into a role it had never played before, a crucial manufacturing center for the American war effort. The sleepy aircraft plants that had emerged during the 1930s suddenly became massive industrial complexes, employing hundreds of thousands of workers around the clock. Douglas Aircraft, Lockheed, and North American Aviation expanded their facilities at breakneck speed, transforming vast stretches of the San Fernando Valley and coastal areas into sprawling factory complexes. The sound of riveting guns and aircraft engines became the new soundtrack of daily life, replacing the quieter rhythms of citrus farming and oil drilling that had previously defined much of the region. The demand for workers was insatiable. Aircraft production required skilled machinists, welders, electricians, and assemblers in numbers that far exceeded the local labour supply. The federal government launched massive recruitment campaigns targeting workers in the rural South and Midwest, promising good wages and steady employment in the California sunshine. The response was overwhelming. Trainloads of workers arrived daily at Union Station, carrying their belongings in cardboard suitcases and harbouring dreams of participating in the Great Crusade against fascism while building new lives for themselves and their families. Many came from small towns and farming communities where industrial employment had been scarce or non-existent. Among these new arrivals were tens of thousands of African Americans from Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, and Mississippi. For many, this represented their first opportunity to escape the oppressive racial system of the Jim Crow South and find employment that paid wages comparable to those earned by white workers. The promise of California had always included the possibility of reinvention, and for these migrants, the war offered a chance to remake not just their own lives, but the broader American social order. Women also entered the industrial workforce in unprecedented numbers, taking on jobs that had previously been reserved exclusively for men. The iconic image of Rosie the Riveter became closely associated with Los Angeles defense plants, where women proved they could master complex manufacturing techniques while maintaining the production schedules essential to military success. These demographic changes transformed entire neighborhoods almost overnight. Areas that had been sparsely populated suddenly sprouted with hastily constructed housing developments, trailer parks, and boarding houses designed to accommodate the flood of new residents. The South Bay communities near the aircraft plants became dense urban areas practically overnight, while the San Fernando Valley began its transformation from agricultural region to suburban metropolis. The entertainment industry adapted to wartime conditions with characteristic creativity and efficiency. Hollywood studios produced training films, propaganda movies, and morale-boosting entertainment that supported the war effort while maintaining their commercial operations. Many of the industry's biggest stars enlisted in the military or participated in bond drives and USO shows that brought entertainment to troops stationed around the world. The war years also saw remarkable innovations in filmmaking technology and storytelling techniques. The need to produce training films quickly and efficiently led to new methods of documentary production, while the desire to boost civilian morale encouraged the development of more sophisticated special effects and production values. These wartime innovations would influence Hollywood productions for decades to come. The economic impact of defense spending on Los Angeles was transformative. The billions of federal dollars that flowed into aircraft manufacturing, shipbuilding, and other military industries created prosperity on a scale that dwarfed even the boom times of the 1920s. Unemployment virtually disappeared, wages rose dramatically, and consumer spending supported the expansion of retail businesses, restaurants, and service industries throughout the metropolitan area. And so we reach the end of our extraordinary journey through the layers of Los Angeles history, from the ancient bones trapped in tar pits to the sprawling metropolis that stretches endlessly toward the horizon today. We've witnessed a city that has reinvented itself time and again, rising from Spanish pueblo to Mexican rancho, from frontier town to oil boom town, from agricultural paradise to entertainment capital, from defense manufacturing hub to global cultural powerhouse. What emerges from this remarkable story is not just the tale of one city, but a quintessentially American narrative of ambition, transformation, and the relentless pursuit of possibility. Los Angeles has always been a place where dreams collide with reality, where illusions somehow become concrete and steel, where the impossible becomes inevitable through sheer force of will and human ingenuity. Today, as you drive those same boulevards we began with, past the palm trees and billboards, through the traffic and smog, remember that you're traveling through layers of history as deep and rich as any city on Earth. Los Angeles remains what it has always been, a city of dreams, built by dreamers, for dreamers, where the next great transformation is always just around the corner, waiting to be born from someone's impossible vision of what could be.